Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's forum about free speech and the fragile ego. We know that free speech is one of the human rights that everyone, at least in countries of democracy, should all have. And we fight for this fundamental human right from time to time. In the United States in particular, the free speech movement started in 1964 at the University of California, Berkeley. Thousands of students insisted that the university should lift the ban of on-campus political activities, acknowledge their right to free speech and academic freedom. And today we have three college students, Andrea, Jason, and Andrew. I know that Andrea and Jason are graduating and Andrew is in his freshman year. So I would like to hear about your opinion. Why do you think the free speech is so important? Isn't a society like an echo chamber more stable and peaceful? Maybe we can ask Andrew first.
Yeah. While a society that's like an echo chamber may appear more stable and peaceful, there's oftentimes a lot of like disagreement underneath that. It's just not expressed openly. And everyone has diverse stories and everyone has something different to offer. And that's why free speech is important, because it allows for different perspectives on certain issues. Without free speech, people can't express their viewpoint. And when people can't do that, then there's no discussion. And without discussion, you can't really have problem solving when there is a problem. And because of this, free speech can call out like problematic situations and social wrongdoings and help fix them.
Yeah, totally agree. And Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I think free speech is really important because it not only gives people the chance to like talk about their own feelings and share their own opinions about certain topics and issues, not just what the majority of the people say in the society, but it also just prospers like growth and overall like growth and better understanding for each other, because it allows people to open up, talk about conversations openly without worrying about things like if their opinions are wrong or if their opinions might get suppressed, stuff like that. So it's overall good. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for sharing. And Andrea?
Yeah, I think free speech is important because everyone innately is different. They have different upbringings and therefore have different opinions. And when an entire community or society echoes the same thoughts and ideas, there's no new ideas to move the conversations forward. And so I believe that free speech allows for this forward thinking, forward movement, and therefore it would move the society forward as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So at this point, I would like to bring something to our attention that in Taiwan, a mom was arrested simply because she held a sign standing on the sidewalk, protesting quietly about the tax rule in Taiwan. So let's watch this video and we will discuss about it afterwards.
I don't know who you are, but I can detain you. I'm not cooperating with you. It's her I wanted.
He wanted to check my ID. Let's see what he is holding. Why was he stopped by the police? What is he holding? I'm just holding this. Film this.
Did we violate any of
But
your
I'm
rights?
scared.
What rights of
We
yours
are
am I
really
violating?
scared.
What rights of yours am I violating?
But we're not breaking any laws here. Have we violated any laws?
Then we'll choose an older one.
According to the police power exercise act,
She is so
I
weak.
have to interrogate you.
We are
I
live.
hereby announce your right. So quiet, I'm going to announce her right.
If anyone is recording, I'll interrogate him or her.
You, put your cell phone away. Don't video.
I'll tell you the charges against you during the interrogation later, okay? I'll tell you when I arrest you in a moment. Don't worry.
Can you not be so loud?
Don't touch it. No touching. What are you touching? No touching. No touching. Don't touch it.
This one. Did you hold this? Yeah? Is it this one? Did you hold it? Huh? Is it this one?
Finally, after looking for the poster, the police forcefully stuffed a poster into Ms. Huang's hands and arrested her without charging her with a crime.
Oh, my brain's almost right now. I was surrounded by a group of police officers. Very scary.
How could you abuse your power? You are turning the nation into a police state. How dare you?
All right, so that was the video. So obviously the government was afraid of something. They were afraid that the people would hear something that they wanted to hide, and they have some sort of fragile ego. So I'd like to ask our panelists what the government was afraid of and didn't want the people to hear. Maybe Andrea?
Yeah, first of all, very upsetting video. And yes, I do think that the government was afraid in that they wanted some things to be censored, especially this situation. And I think governments at the end of the day, they want to maintain the sense of peace amongst its citizens and have no chaos. But if situations like these get out, it might cause chaos as people start seeing the wrongdoings of the government, and that might lead to rebellions of some sort. And I think that's what the government is trying to prevent by censorship.
Yeah, okay. And Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, in this case, the video was like really emotional, really like upsetting. But I think they're really just afraid of like collective group, further protests and stuff like that. They might be scared like the protesters might gain some kind of influence, and then sudden more people would just be curious about the issue and then hop in on the protest, and they just think that like the best way to deal with it is just to suppress some of the vulnerable members of the protest, the volunteers of the protest. And yeah, I agree that like by doing so, it could lead on to further problems later on when documentaries or like videos, evidence of these kind of like leaks to the public, then it could create further issues within the government and the people. So
yeah, thanks for sharing. And Andrew, what was the government afraid of? What do you think?
I think the government was afraid of potential issues being brought to light. And because this probably wasn't like the only case in which the government has been unjust to a certain group, others might see this and might cause them to like stand up for themselves as well and speak out against the government. So this creates like more problems for the government to deal with. And I think in the end, they're just afraid that the movement might grow and gain traction, and then eventually force them to change their ways, which they don't want to do.
Yeah, that's true. So I think maybe now we can just switch gear a little bit and talk about our own experiences. So I'd like to ask you guys, have you ever heard any speech that made you uncomfortable and maybe have the urge to stop them? Yeah, any kind of speech that doesn't sound great and that sounds a little bit upsetting. Anything? Maybe Jason?
yeah, so personally, like especially in my senior high school years, like in the US, school shootings been a pretty big problem. And those type of free speech, whether a student or the criminal like says something that they're going to shoot up the school, stuff like that, the day before like a finals or just a regular school week, then those kind of things could stir up a lot of emotions and fear for students, faculties, and just like the public as well, because the parents are worried about their kids' safety. So those type of free speech does make me uncomfortable and fearful, like about because there's a lot of uncertainties, like is the person actually going to do it, stuff like that. But then on top of that, there's other like countless examples of free speech that can make people uncomfortable, such as like public shaming, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but besides the public shaming, do you think the previous topic, the gun shooting, do you think is a topic that should be banned on campus, like even in in college? Should we ban such speech?
If the intent and everything was there of the shooter, for some reason they want to be real honest about what they're gonna do, then in that case, it shouldn't be banned. But if it's just like for fun or just some fraudulent information leaked out, then it should be this up to the schools and administrators like power to put a hold to that free speech.
Definitely. Okay, and what do you think, Andrew? Do you have you ever heard any speech that makes you uncomfortable?
Yeah, definitely. I think most people have heard at least some form of speech that makes them uncomfortable, and it's just like anything that opposes your values and your beliefs would make you uncomfortable. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a lot about the context. And like Jason said, like going to an extreme of discomfort of like school shootings and such, I think that is like something that is highly debatable about whether like it should be allowed or not. But in general, I think it's kind of hard to avoid that. It's kind of hard to avoid speech that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Andrea, do you have any experience? Or have you ever heard any speech that is actually rational and legal, not like a gun shooting thing, but something that just doesn't make sense to you, but it's legal? Have you ever heard anything about it?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I feel like for me personally, I think whenever I think about speeches that make me uncomfortable, not in the sense of something that is categorized as like a hate speech or derogatory speech, it's more of like speeches that have contents that are different from my values and morals and are different from my political views and my cultural views. I think those are speeches that make me uncomfortable, but not obviously everyone's more uncomfortable with like hate speech and stuff like that.
Yeah, but okay, so obviously different students have different opinions, different political opinions. So should we ban any political speeches on campus or anything that may be controversial on campus?
I don't think so. I don't believe that controversial topics should be banned just for the sake of it being controversial. You know, like free speech is important, and it's important in that you hear different perspectives because it allows for these types of uncomfortable conversations. And once you have these uncomfortable conversations, I think that's when people grow. You learn more than just the one story that you've been reading your entire life or the one story that you've been accustomed to. Instead, you listen to, you know, this myriad of perspectives. And I think this allows for space for sympathy and understanding between people. And because I feel like when you take away the conversations between different perspectives regarding these topics, people start to, you know, build a divide, have hatred towards one another. And that's really what we're seeing in the news a lot these days, this lack of sympathy and empathy towards others, and which has led to chaos.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I like the point that we need some ingredient to build up our immune system to make us grow. So exposing to those various speech and arguments, as long as they are rational and legal, of course, can gradually just build the immune system into ourselves, and also for the students to make them more mature over this controversial debates or protests. Yeah, so I'd like to thank you all for your inputs, and hopefully we can all be more mature after hearing something we don't actually like, rather than having a fragile ego. And I would like to end this forum by playing the song Human Rights for World Citizens And thank you everyone for watching this forum, and hope you have a wonderful day.